Like, I'm up to chapter 3 and I'm on page 77.
Welcome to the world of the Depressy and the Stressy.
My cadre and inner... Do you mind, sir?
It's Barbie day!
This is one for the Twilight girlies. You guys are hundreds, you're thousands of years old. Have a sense of decorum, my guy. I got back from Denver 2 days ago and I can't lie, I feel like I'm feeling a little bit depressed. I don't know, it's not because I've come back from Denver. I think it's just how I'm feeling right now. But also I kind of gave myself up until Friday, which is tomorrow, to be off, just recuperate, do general human being stuff. So I don't know whether it's because I'm kind of just like listlessly wandering around, which just does not do well for me. I cannot chill. I need a to-do list, even on my days off, even if it's just small things like put the laundry in the washing machine. I need to do something and have some kind of goal for the day, and I've just not really given myself anything. So I don't know if I'm just kind of like wandering around feeling listless, but the goal for this vlog is just gonna be, you know what it is, to read as much of my TBR as possible, which is a constant struggle. I don't have any social plans now until September. I have one book event, an author event, right at the end of August. I'm pretty sure that's it, and I'm thriving in it because what I've realized through traveling, while I'm having a great time while I'm away, I'm such a homebody, and I love coming home with that refreshed like energy and appreciation for my home and my life, and truly just realizing and appreciating that I really enjoy my life. So that's kind of I say that's the mood I'm in, but I'm also saying I'm feeling a little bit depressed, so who knows. But we're just gonna read a whole bunch of stuff. There's currently, the reason why I'm in the kitchen is because there's currently gas works going on directly outside of my house. It's only in front of 3 houses, including mine, and I think on the letter they said that they're gonna stick around for 2 weeks, but the last time something like this happened, they weren't around very long. So fingers crossed it's the same again, because my plan was to film tomorrow. I actually think we might go to the cinema instead because of the noise, because I need to film and edit a video, and then I'll just end up doing that on Saturday as well, because with the drilling outside, that's definitely not going to get done tomorrow, but I don't have anything prepared for Sunday. So in terms of reading, I have 2 books currently on the go. I have other stuff I'm currently reading, but 2 books that we're going to be talking about right now, because I'm going to be reading them pretty much right now. The first one I only have 170 pages left of, and I have to be done with this by Sunday because that's when the live show is, and that is The Last Argument of Kings by Joe Abercrombie. So this one is the final book in the First Law series. It's a very character-driven, grimdark fantasy that mainly focuses on kind of like the themes and the characters that we're following, as opposed to like a concrete linear plot. But some of the kind of main focuses of this book is war between the Union, which is the main country that I guess all of our characters are centered around, and both the North and the South. But even more so, everything is tied to magic, and the fact that magic is currently dying out, and things that happened like 1,000 years ago that were, I guess, left unresolved. So a lot of the core themes and plot of this series is to do with the immortals of the world and this kind of unresolved conflict and the mystery surrounding that. So this one is absolutely not my favorite book in the series right now. I was supposed to be making a spoiler vlog for it, as I am for both of the like big read along series that I'm doing at the minute, but I read all 470 pages. I've read a little bit since I got home. I read 470 pages of this on the way to and from Denver, which obviously just does not lend itself to making spoiler vlogs, but I also didn't have a choice because the deadline for reading this is Sunday, and I didn't want to feel rushed and panicked and like when I came home having to read the entire book now, so it had to be done. But I do feel like this one is feeling a little bit disjointed. Like, I feel like we're skipping large portions of time. We are cutting out things like traveling scenes, which I don't mind a traveling scene, but you can make an argument for why you would cut those out. But we're also skipping things like people are gearing up ready for battle, and then by the time you get around to their perspective again, the city's in ruins, you know? So I feel like we're jumping through big things. A big plot twist that I feel has been kind of obvious to me, at least from book 1. If you watch the live shows back, I've been talking about it since book 1. I thought was going to come into fruition like at the end of this book, and it actually came like a lot earlier. So I'm hoping that the end of this one is really going to wow me, because right now I just feel like it hasn't gone in the direction that I expected it to. Not that I knew where I was expecting it to go. It's just I don't know where it's going. Like, I don't know what the point of this series is, and what I really wanted from this book was for it to come together in a way where I felt like the whole thing had been worth it, because I just really feel like this series is one where everything clicks into place all at once. and everything makes sense. But now I don't feel like that's a moment we're building to. So I guess we'll see what happens at the end of this one. This is very centered on war as well. There's a lot of battles in here. And I've said it 1,000 times before, I'll say it again. That's just not the most riveting like type of scene for me to read. So I'm not loving it the most because of that as well. That has been present in previous books. I just feel like it's a little bit more in this one than it has been in the previous 2 installments. The second one I'm reading, I'm not going to talk about too much. I'm going to be making a spoiler video for this one. Maybe I should start that now actually. That would make a lot of sense. But this one is going to extend past this vlog. I'm going to be reading 55 pages a day until sometime in the beginning of August. I have it currently scheduled, so it's like 55 pages a day until the earliest possible date that a live show could be for this book, and that is The Shadow Rising by Robert Jordan, which is book 4 in the Wheel of Time series, which is the other big read along that I'm participating in. This one is a chunker. She's 970 pages. We're going slow and steady, but I'm expecting very good things from this because a lot of people say like this is one of their favorite books in the series. This is where the series really starts to pick up, and I need that. I enjoyed book 3, but just with how long the books are, especially at this point, which is where they start to get truly thick, and how long this series is as a whole, I need at this point one really great book in this series. I mean, so far so good. It's slow going because the first 2 chapters, like I'm up to chapter 3 and I'm on page 77. Those were 2 long ass chapters and we all know how I feel about those. But if you guys don't know what the Wheel of Time series is, it is a very classic fantasy plot where there's an eternal struggle between light and dark, and over the last few ages the dark has been very slowly winning. So in this series we are following this age's dragon reborn, which is an influential figure that has the ability to tip the scales further towards light or dark in every age, as he assumedly, one would assume, because it's typically how these things go, tips the scales towards light for good by the end of this series. So this one has had quite a few perspectives so far, which I am enjoying about it, because I don't like it when we get into certain characters' perspectives for too long stretches of time, because with this being multi-perspective, I do definitely have some perspectives that I prefer over others. So this one, 55-ish pages a day, like to the nearest chapter for the foreseeable future, and this one is going to be done by Sunday. So my dad has just been to visit and I'm about to, now that he's gone, can you hear that? They've started the work again outside. I just realized I'm about to start doing sprints with my patrons. That could be a problem. I don't know, obviously, how audible it is in terms of a camera, but a Amazon parcel arrived today, which feels like a couple of books. I don't think I ordered this, so I don't know what it is, but let's have a look. This is from Ash. This is Broken Bonds by Jay Bray. I knew as soon as I saw it because I'm pretty sure we were talking about this. And The Crown of Oaths and Curses. I'm sure this is Ash, right? It doesn't have a note in it, but Ash was talking about this. Like, people in my Discord were talking about the 2 Jay Bray series, because I know that Ashley's been really reading and loving these recently, and so have a bunch of other people. But I'm very worried because this is Jay Bray's most famous series, and I'm a little bit worried about it because it's reverse harem. I don't really like reverse harem, but this one I believe is Fated Mates, and once again I don't love Fated Mates always because of the, I guess sometimes there's a lack of conflict and it can be a bit insta-lovey, so it definitely depends how it's done. But with Ashley loving Jay Bray so much, I feel like there is potential for me to enjoy these series. And also I didn't meet Jay Bray. Jay Bray was at Rare and I got a wristband for Jay Bray, but I didn't have any of her books, so I gave up my wristband to somebody who like missed out on getting them, who actually wanted to see her. But she is an author that was at Rare and I do want to read her books because she has very nice tour editions or like event editions that you can pre-order, and she said that they're available at like every event. You'll be able to pre-order those. Assuming this is Ash, I am going to check, but I really do feel like this is Ash. Thank you so much. I think Ashley said that this isn't super like smutty straight out, like in terms of it is reverse harem, but it moves at a much slower pace than like a typical reverse harem or reverse harem that I've read in the past. So that gives me hope, but I feel like I'm definitely going to be trying this one first. I do know as well there's 2 novellas called The Sword and the Scepter that you don't have to, I think, read before this, but it is like a prequel story with backstory on each of the characters, and they're only 90 pages each. So my original plan, which I guess still stands, is to try those 2 90-page novellas and then move into this one. I do have beef with the title of this though, because the title, The Crown of Oaths and Curses, doesn't make any sense. You can't put oaths on your head, guys. You can't put curses on your head. But I have heard really great things, so thank you very much, assuming that it's Ash. Thank you very much to Ash for adding these to my collection. I actually just put in my mid-year freakout, no, my mid-year stats, that I haven't been feeling romance recently, and I didn't know whether that was me because of how not romancy I've been feeling, or whether that was the books that I've been choosing. Since I went to Rare and I read Fourth Wing, I'm actually in a big romance mood. Sadly, there's no romance on my TBR though, so I haven't been reading very much of it. That's a lie, there's Discovery of Witches, but I'm in a big, like, I feel high fantasy romance mood at the minute, and I got nothing but
but also for alternating front raises and bent over rows. All right. Not me.
free. Good girl. I picked a couple of these up in Denver. They're like handmade dog biscuits, and she's real excited for it. Be a good girl, look at me. There we go. But she also does this thing with her snacks where she's gonna play with it for a while before she actually eats it. There we go. Finally. Good afternoon, guys. Welcome to the world of the Depressy and the Stressy. That's a lie, actually. I lied to you. I'm not feeling stressed right now, but I am depressed. Oh, I blew her out. My bad. You know how I said the other day, like, I didn't know whether I was feeling depressy or whether it's just because my schedule was kind of out of whack? Can confirm I am feeling a touch depressy, but it's just hormones, you know, it'll pass. I feel a little better today than I have for the last couple of days. It's the fatigue that really gets to me. Because like yesterday and the day before, I had a 2-hour nap because I could not stay awake. So today, on Saturday, I have finally filmed and edited the video that I needed to do for tomorrow because I had absolutely nothing scheduled. And I've actually scheduled my Patreon Card Rain Inner Circle Chatty Live show for 4 p.m. today. It's about 3 p.m. now. And I haven't finished this yet because I've been sleeping through my reading time, but I only have about 60 pages left. I think it's like exactly 60 pages. So my plan for now is I've just lit a candle. That's one of like my Becca specials, by the way. The candles of mine that I burn are the ones that like I've poured the ends of jugs into. So I have no idea what that is. It smells real good. And I wish I knew what it was. I think it might be, is it one of Jade's Polathon ones from last year in the top? And then I'm not sure what the bottom of it is. What do you want? What do you want? You've not been with me for an hour and now you're being needy. So I've lit a candle and I'm gonna get some reading done until I need to set up for my live show. Good news though, the trip for Thailand, the group trip for Thailand is now confirmed. We have 8 adventurers on board with us, so that's really cool. And I need to go through and confirm all the details for that to like send out emails to everybody who's booked on a little bit later. If you do want to join us on that, it is still available for booking. We've just made like the minimum requirements for the trip to actually go ahead, but you will have until like November, December to book onto that trip if you want to come to Thailand and eat some food with us. Us being myself and Ashley, by the way. So that's cool and exciting because I've literally never been to Asia and I'm so excited. Today, I just really want, because I'm playing catch up on a bunch of Patreon stuff that I normally would have been spread throughout the month, but like I was in Colorado. So I feel like with my mood being kind of low, I just want a day to sit and watch YouTube and read. And I'm just not getting it anytime soon. So we'll make the most of this hour. We'll take it hour by hour, and then Curtis is out today, so I actually feel like I'll have more reading time after my live show because I really don't think he's going to be back by 5. Me too, baby. Me too. What? So I've had my Patreon live show since I checked in with you last, and I've also just finished Last Argument of Kings. Sorry for the shakiness as well. Curtis took my small tripod with him, so we're doing this the old-fashioned handheld way. But yeah, I finished Last Argument of Kings and it's a very low 4-star. I think it's my least favorite book in the series. It's a very sad series, and I don't mean that as in like boo-hoo, oh my god I'm so emotional. I mean it as in like that it's just not uplifting in any way. So I feel like that led to an element of underwhelm in the end. The last 100 pages is weird because like I feel like a lot of this book wrapped up 100 pages before the book actually ended, and then we had like an extra 100 pages, I guess, following up on some of the individual characters passed throughout this. But I know a few people have read this already because the live show's tomorrow, and they've said like it feels very clear that Joe Abercrombie had later books planned in this world. It does feel very, very obvious that he did have later books planned, because it doesn't feel like an origin story in the way that I felt like it did to start off with. Although potentially, I kind of assumed that we weren't going to see any of these characters in the later books with the way that I've heard like people talk about it, kind of without giving spoilers, but I didn't feel like these main characters were going to be a recurring part of the rest of the world. Now, based on how this ends, I feel like they kind of are, not maybe in a central role, but because of the places that they've ended up, I mean, there is a big chance that they would be like referenced offhand frequently, but also I see potential for at least one of them, probably a couple, to kind of pop up in other books throughout the universe. And obviously like I don't know what shape the rest of the First World Law is gonna take, so I don't know like what potential there is for things like cameos, but it just very much felt like these stories weren't finished, and I feel like it's an odd place for a trilogy to end, because if we compare this to like the Realm of the Eldlings, which is an extended universe that's made of series, every series has an end that connects to a wider plot, but like there is a finality, I guess, to the end of every series, and I feel like this left it way too open. It almost ended on a cliffhanger for every character, and I don't know whether that's kind of like the underwhelming nature of it, because like I said, there's no heroes in this story, so does everybody deserve like a grand ending? Probably not. But I feel like all of the endings were unsatisfactory. I think it was definitely my least favorite in the series. Some of my theories did come into fruition, but it also didn't have that big grand feeling of everything coming together that I expected for this. Very much like Joe Abercrombie is playing a longer game here, which for sure I'm obviously going to read at least the rest of the books in this world. But with this being advertised as a trilogy, a series that's like within a larger world, I feel like I expected more of an air of finality for the end of this. So not a glowing review from me, I'm afraid. Very much dissatisfied with all of that. But it did have, like, I do still really like the world. I really like the writing and the humor of this series. So for that reason, it does still get like a 4-star rating. But it is like, it's more of a 3.5 than anything, because I just didn't like the direction that this plot went, and the way it all came together just wasn't satisfying to me. So it's 6:15. Curtis still isn't home, so I'm gonna proof the video that I filmed and edited today so that I don't have to do it tomorrow, and I at least have some semblance of a day off tomorrow. I say that as though I've been so hard at work, when really this is the only day that I've worked all week. But yeah, I'm gonna proof that video while I wait for him to come home. I don't want to order takeout tonight, but realistically he's gonna be home at 7:30. Am I gonna want to cook? Or am I going to be ravenous by that point? I feel like that's a question that we all know the answer to. And while the mood is kind of low, your girl wants to eat. And I did get takeout on Wednesday. I don't get takeout very often anymore. I tend to indulge like when I'm on holiday and I literally just got back, and then pretty much stick to eating at least relatively healthy at home. I do a lot of baking, I admit, but healthy is in terms of like I don't buy out a lot, especially not just like a regular takeout. But I don't know, when the mood is low, your girl wants to scran, and right now with the mood I'm in, I'm literally looking for any excuse, and this seems like a pretty good one to me. But I haven't picked it up yet. So this one is following a girl called Fallon, who is like right up top. They look down on everybody else. Halfway and kind of like in between, they're not treated very well, but they're not as bad as her grandparents and her mother, right? Her and her mother who's sick, and her grandfather stayed in his like prestigious position. Right on. After long and thoughtful and careful consideration, Winston is in. Good morning. I'm feeling a little bit better today. I've kind of gone into this week, or I'm going into this week with the outlook of like, it's a new day, it's a new week, let's get our shit together. And that's very much what I'm trying to do. I've spent my morning doing a whole bunch of admin, and I'm about to start editing my Denver vlog, which is what I'll be doing, I'm pretty sure, for all of the afternoon. But I had like quite a cozy
weekend, especially yesterday, and I've fallen down so many procrastination rabbit holes that it's worrying, because I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get myself out of them. So I started playing Fall Guys yesterday, which is like an online multiplayer total wipeout game show kind of game. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. It was big during the pandemic and I just never played it. I've also reinstalled Candy Crush on my phone, which is, I've been playing like a 12-year game of Candy Crush, and every like 2 or 3 years or so I reinstall it and then I lose my life to it for like a week before I delete it again. And I've also started a K-drama, and K-dramas are something that I have wanted to experiment with and like dip my toes into for a little while. So I had no idea how to pick like a good one. All I had at my fingertips was like what was available on Netflix. So I went with one called Alchemy of Souls, and I quickly noticed that every single, because I flicked through a few before I picked one, and I quickly noticed that every one has episodes that are like 1 hour and 15 minutes long, which is like, it's almost a movie, you know? And then on Saturday night, after watching 2 episodes of this K-drama, which I'm enjoying enough. It is my first one, so I have nothing to like base my opinion on, but it's a good time. I like how dramatic it is, which is the reason why I wanted to watch K-dramas in the first place, because you know I live for drama. But I checked, I was like, oh, I wonder how many episodes are in like a season. 20. There are 20 episodes in part 1 and 10 episodes in part 2. So I feel like I'm in all of these things for the long haul. And because of that, I haven't really been reading too much. I am pretty much exclusively reading the Shadow Rising right now. I will, or I hope to at some point, pick up another book alongside, but as long as I'm not meeting my daily goal of the Shadow Rising, that's what we're going to be trucking along with. I'm having an okay time with it right now. I feel like 200, where am I up to? Like 240, 250 pages in. We're finally at the point where like all of the characters are starting to move on from like the end book. So like they were all kind of in a place after the events of book 3, and now we're at the point where like things are happening that's making them all have to kind of begin a new quest, which I imagine is going to form the bulk of the plot of book 4. I'm having a decent time with that. I am just trucking along with it right now, but I'm still expecting really good things from this one based on like general people's opinions of it. But with it being like a 1,000 page book, I'm not expecting it to like really pick up in the first 200 pages, you know, so it's not like it's not meeting my expectations or anything. So my plan for today, I guess, is to catch up with where I'm supposed to be in the Shadow Rising, which I think is page 330 would be my goal at this point in reading it. And hopefully I'll get to pick something up. Hopefully my mood will continue to improve. Hopefully I'll get a bunch of stuff done, because you know I love that little boost from checking things off my to-do list. So I've actually made a to-do list for today, and the only thing left on it right now is to start my vlog. I do have Buffy tonight though as well, so that's going to be happening.
So I've been to TK Maxx, and we all know what time of year it is. Summer. Summer is what time of year it is. But if you go to TK Maxx, they have started to get their spooky season shit out. So I do have a homeware haul for you guys, because I have spooky season stuff around all year long. There's a lot of pumpkins in the living room, and now I got a couple more to add to my collection. So I picked up this, I don't know if this is a drinking glass. I want it to be a drinking glass, and I think it is, and I think that's what I'm going to use it as. But I'm also going to wash it very gently, because I know that all of this like coating is going to scrape off it pretty quickly. But I got this like celestial glass, which is very sexy. I also picked up, I was reluctant to get this because I have a small embroidered version of this, which is the same brand. The brand is Cynthia Rowley, but I got this enormous cushion which has a Ouija design on it, and it also has some cute little tassels on the corners, and it was £17, which in terms of cushions, especially like because it's so big, I didn't think was too bad. So maybe I'll put it in my bedroom when my bedroom's done, because I was going to do my bedroom dark green, but now I kind of want to do the kitchen dark green. So I'm thinking about doing my bedroom like all black and white. I just don't want to paint any walls really dark, because I feel like that's kind of depressing because it reduces light. But at the same time, I want to be bold. I want to have some like bougie
jewel tone Victorian-esque spooky decor, and that involves some bold choices. So we'll see what actually happens with the bedroom, because now I can't decide between dark green and black. So what I'm going to do is wait until the plaster is being, which he's coming to quote us at some time in the near future, because I can't paint the walls until the walls have been plastered, so I still have some time to think about it. But this could be one for my bedroom, because the little one's in the spare bedroom. Essentially keeping them all away from Brie. I buy really nice stuff, like really nice cushions, and then we have to keep them away from Brie, because actually Brie is 16 months old now. These cushions have been around since we first moved into this house, so they predate Brie. And I think it was last week she decided to chew a hole in one of them. We also needed some new oven gloves because Brie had chewed holes in the tips of them. So I saw some spooky ones. These ones have like poisons and stuff on. So I thought I would get them. I think our next task after the bedroom has been plastered, the next thing that we're going to get somebody in to do is to retile the kitchen floor, which is, you've seen it's like a terracotta tile now, which was underneath a carpet that the previous owner had laid. It's a nice tile, but it just doesn't, I want a darker like black and white kind of kitchen. I'm going to get like a Victorian parquet floor in there. At least 2 of the walls I think are going to stay white. I want to paint 2 dark green and have some like dark, I guess, accenty bits in there. We'll see if it comes together. I'm very much like, I can't piece these things together ahead of time. I have to kind of just do one thing and then be like, okay, now this would look really cool, and then introduce that until I'm done. We also have 2 pumpkin shaped things. The first one is a candle, but I will not be lighting it. I picked it up because it has this really pretty celestial pattern on it, and it is, if you guys can see, it's like a dark mottled purple. That can join the rest of the pumpkins in the living room probably. And then this one's been taped shut because it does have a porcelain lid on it, but this is an actual candle to burn. And the thing that I like about this is that because it's not transparent, you can't see if the candle's been used inside, and also it will do as like a decorative pot even when the candle inside has been burned. The brand on this one is Martha Stewart, actually, because Martha Stewart knows what's up, and it says on the label that I guess the scent is carved pumpkin. It doesn't smell pumpkin-y. I don't really know what it smells like. Definitely vanilla-y, definitely like frosting. And I guess it has a little touch of like artificial pumpkin fragrance, because realistically the pumpkins smell of anything. In the UK, we're not big on like fall in terms of like pumpkin pies, like we don't have Thanksgiving. So I've never had like a pumpkin dish. I don't think I've ever eaten pumpkin, so I don't know what like a pumpkin pie smells like, but this smells amazing. So I got that, and I think the last thing that I got was this is it a ram skull wall hanging. So I don't know where this is going. Maybe the hallway, maybe the kitchen, maybe the spare bedroom, but it has a little thing in to be able to hang it, and I liked it, so I got it. So you might be asking yourself, did that homeware haul cure my depression? No, it did not, which is very unfortunate because that's why I went. I'm still trucking along. I'm actually about to finish, I've left my book in there, I did take it with me. I'm about to finish the section of like where I should be up to after today in The Shadow Rising. I am hoping to pick up a new book tonight. It is 4:15 at the minute, and I do have a meeting at 5, so what I'm going to do is I've lit my candle, which also isn't curing my depression. Oh, I got something else. This was some Dunelm. But I got a cocktail shaker because I don't have one, and I need one. I really hate the metal on metal feel of cocktail shakers though. But yeah, so what I'm going to do until my meeting at 5 for the next 45 minutes, I'm going to try not to play Candy Crush, and I'm going to try and read a little bit of Wheel of Time to finish today's section. And at some point today, I guess, I don't know what I'm picking up now, because I expected to be picking something up sooner, and now there's only like 6 days of the month left, so I don't know what to read.
Asked the judge for leniency, what I could do, and the judge considered everything. That, like, in my opinion, it really sucks because the rom-com heresy to, you know.
I am going to be starting Patreon sprints with Leanne very, very shortly in 9 minutes. But I do have to inform you that my book that I'm picking up, my second book that I'm picking up, finally is Blood Sanctuary Part 1 by Vela Roth. So I am struggling with the motivation to pick this one up. It's my Patreon book club book actually for the month of June. Part 3, like Blood Sanctuary, which is the third book in the series, is split into 2. So part 1 was supposed to be read in June, part 2 was supposed to be read in July. I have got the second part on my Magical Readathon TBR. but that implies that I'm going to finish this by the end of the month. And the writing style is getting to me because I started this third book. The first one had a whole ton of info dumping, had a whole ton of setup, but it's the first book in a series, you know. The second book had no kind of like conflict or like big end of book event. It was just very lackluster to me in the way that it ended, and still continued with this really slow pacing, this really formal writing, a whole ton of dialogue. And book 3 already, we're going on a reindeer ride and we're talking about exactly why we use reindeer, where we're going, the transport systems and all this kind of stuff. And it is a super detailed world, which I love, but right now I just don't feel like the story is filling this world. We have this super vast, super intricate world, and the story is a tour of this world. We're not doing anything in it apart from wandering around and looking at all of the things in this world. It's very early days for this book. I think I'm just off the back of the second book and the way that that ended, going into this and it being like more description. I just find it to be a little bit exhausting right now. I'm only 38 pages in though, so I am going to be reading this for the majority of this evening, and I do have a backup book in case doubles are rolled. I have A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness, which I think I'm going to try and finish this weekend during my cadre and inner... Do you mind, sir? During my cadre and Inner Circle 48-hour readathon, which should be 24 hours, but I've added an extra 24 on to make up for a live show that I missed last month because my mental health was really bad. So that should be plenty of time to finish that one out, but hopefully we won't roll doubles and I'll just get through a big chunk of this that's kind of enough to get me back into the story again. Saying that though, I've started organising a lot of books that I've hauled over the last couple of months that I kind of got behind on cataloguing them into my spreadsheet and just kind of let them pile up. And I realised that in my schedule for August I have a book haul, which means that I actually finally need to sort those out and separate them into things that have already been hauled and things that need to be hauled. And I've been putting it off a little bit. I mean, it's from the very beginning of May and we're now at the end of July, so that's when that stack started. So I have been putting it off for quite some time, but I did start it before dinner and now I'm kind of really into it and I'm procrastinating on reading my book. So I feel like at least the first couple of sprints is going to be taken up by dealing with that, because it's one of those really organizational tasks that's kind of monotonous, but when you're in the mood for it, like you're really in the mood for it, you know? So yeah, I'll probably end up doing that, but hopefully also we'll manage to read a chunk of this. Day, and this is pretty much the only pink item of clothing I own, which is a Machine Gun Kelly shirt from his tour last year. And the only, like, I'm not a pink girly, I can't lie, I'm not a Barbie girl. It's true. I do have like some nudie pink things, but I don't want to wear like a mini skirt to the cinema. So this is what we're going with. The showing is at 2. It is 12:36. We're gonna go to a deli that's like, it's one of those delis, it's next to Primark in Hull, and it's one of those delis that like nothing is fancy. It is truly like where you would go for your lunch at work, and it's kind of like sandwiches that my mum would make. They're like so good and they're not very expensive. So we're gonna go there, we're gonna get a sandwich and head to the cinema, and then when we get back I'm gonna make dinner and have a quick turnaround because my Inner Circle and Cadre 24-hour readathon that is actually 48 hours this month is starting at 7 p.m. So I'm doing sprints today, I'm doing sprints tomorrow, and I'm doing sprints on Sunday. So fingers crossed we get something read. I'm hoping to get a lot read. I'm really hoping to finish a book which I think is going to be Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness, which I picked that up because during sprints the other night we did roll a double and I only read one chapter, but it was so good. Like I feel like I've been reading very slow books, or books that are like I say about Wheel of Time, it's dedication. You know, I don't find the writing that compelling. So just picking up Discovery of Witches, I was in it immediately and I was eating that shit up. So I am very eager to get back to that, and I'm really looking forward to reading that this weekend. Because I do feel like I've been feeling kind of slumpy, and it's not Wheel of Time. Like, Wheel of Time isn't what's making me feel slumpy, but what I am struggling with is that I am feeling slumpy and then having to get through 60 pages of Wheel of Time before I can move on to anything else isn't helping me feel any less slumpy, you know? So yeah, I'm excited for Discovery of Witches, but I'm
gonna go because we're leaving in like 10 minutes. I'm gonna go get myself a sandwich and I'm gonna see the Barbie movie. I'm so excited. It is 11:25. My first round of Patreon spreads for this readathon have just ended and I'm gonna be back at it at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. So I'm gonna go get ready for bed in a minute. But I have made quite a bit of a dent in a discovery of witches tonight. I'm slightly behind on The Shadow Rising. I should be around page, I think 550 today. I'm on 502, so I'm like one day behind. I've read like 55 pages of this today. That's getting good. I'm enjoying it. I still don't think that Robert Jordan is the most compelling, or I want to say I don't think he's like the most skilled or compelling writer, but I feel like as a storyteller that's potentially where he shines, because I'm seeing the intricacies of the plot kind of come forward while I'm enjoying it a little bit more now as things are coming together. He doesn't have me gripped most of the time, you know, but I am, the more I get into this book, the more, or I guess the less tedious I feel when I'm reading it, the less it feels like it's dragging, the more I'm actually into the story. But Discovery of Witches, I've read I think like 90 pages. I'm gonna make it to the end of the chapter and then I'll have read about 100 today. But this one it's like reading Twilight for adults, like super pretentious British Twilight for adults. It's about this woman who's a very powerful witch called Diana, who I can't remember now because I read 200 pages of it last month and then put it down for a month and I'm picking it up again. Does she work at Oxford or is she doing like some sort of like PhD program or something like that? But anyway, she calls this manuscript out from the library and all of these demons and vampires and witches start hanging around her because this manuscript that she's called contains the secrets to the creation of all of the creatures of the world, so the demons, the vampires and the witches. She like flicks through it and then sends it back into the library and doesn't kind of realize what a big deal this is up until all of these people start congregating around her. So a very old and powerful vampire called Matthew is one of these people who's drawn to her because of this, but they get talking and he takes a liking to her and takes it upon himself to protect her from everybody else who's trying to get this manuscript, while also low-key trying to get the manuscript for himself. Like the contents of this manuscript are of interest to him. Now there is like a little bit of, would we call it rivalry, definitely tension between all of these creatures. So the witches are at Diana because they don't want her to call out this manuscript and give the secrets to vampires, and the vampires and demons are also very much trying to get this manuscript for their own gain. The romance in here, I don't know if I dig it. I very much liked Matthew to start off with, and I have only read one book in the Fever series by Karen Marie Monin, but I do feel like Matthew is given the same vibes as the guy in that series, which I really need to get back to because I didn't mind book one considering I'm not the biggest paranormal girly. I think in terms of the character pairings, Diana is a bit too flimsy for me, I want to say. She's a bit too fragile. She's fainting all over the show, and of course Matthew's there to like swoop in and scoop her up. And I also find him to be very overbearing to the point of being controlling. So like he sees that she's tired and like fair enough, maybe she is, but he like forces her to nap. He tells her to stop doing things for her own safety, and it's just a bit much. It's also, while I wouldn't say it is insta-lovey, it is kind of insta-lovey, even at the point where like before they've even kissed, they're kind of like a little bit all over each other and touching each other and kind of staring at each other really intensely. So I don't feel like there's any great tension in the build up to their relationship. But the thing that I'm really enjoying about this is that while the historical stuff is going right over my head, and I believe that Deborah Harkness does have a background as a historian, so I believe all of the historical stuff in here is accurate, and it's all like super pretentious stuff like art and literature and like ancient manuscripts. While all of it's going over my head because I'm not like the biggest history girly, I trust that Deborah Harkness knows what she's talking about, and I feel like it really does lend to the atmosphere. Like it lends a kind of layer of realism to the story, where the atmosphere in this book I would say is on point. Like I feel like it's a believable story. I could believe that this is something that has happened or is something that is happening in France at the point in the book where I'm up to. And the plot is intriguing to me. I think because I like sci-fi that has like quite a lot of logic in it or deals with science, even though science goes over my head as well. Essentially, I like things that are believable, and the fact that the main thing in here that everyone's working towards is finding out how these creatures were created, I feel like is really appealing to that side of me that does like really logical, like science
based stories. So yeah, weird, because going into this I thought it was going to be the romance, with it, me knowing it's pretty much a paranormal romance but with a super like pretentious academia setting. I thought it was going to be the romance that I was rooting for, but actually it's the writing, the atmosphere and the world building that I'm loving. It is very much like adult Twilight though, like even with the kind of way the relationship between the two main characters is developing. I said this when I started it, it's very much like Edward finds Bella and wants to be with her but he can't because it's forbidden. Edward takes Bella to meet his family. Edward protects Bella from certain death, and it's very much, that is very much the vibe. So this is one for the Twilight girlies. If you were a Twilight fan back in the day, or if you're still a Twilight fan now, I feel like you'll find some enjoyment in this one. And considering it's really big and has a lot of that like pretentious art, history, poetry, literature dropping in it, it's a pretty quick read. I felt like it was kind of slow when I started it, and I don't know whether it's because I already had read the first 200 pages when I'd picked it up this time, or whether it's because the other book that I'm reading is The Shadow Rising. But this is so compelling to me now, like I'm so into it and I'm flying through it. So I'm really excited to dive back into it tomorrow, and I just want to kind of maintain 50 pages a day of this throughout the rest of the readathon, and then I'll worry about getting back on track with this on Monday.
I am Callie. Welcome to your 30-minute Barbie glutes and leg strength.
I slept in this morning, which, I mean, we all know me, so we know I'm horrified about it. But Curtis got up early to go to a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament, so I was like, I don't need to set an alarm because he'll wake me up. And he did. I woke up all the times while he was getting ready, but I also just rolled over and went back to sleep. And then he also sorts out like Hamilton and Bree, feeds them and stuff in the morning before he goes. So there was no Hamilton crying at the door to wake me up or anything. So I mean, at least it's a Sunday. If you're gonna sleep in on any day, make it a Sunday. But it is a little bit inconvenient because I am trying to, well, I'm participating in a readathon and I'm very much trying to finish a book by 7 p.m. today. I also just bent my leg, and after that legs and glute workout last night, ouchie, is all I'm saying about that. But yesterday I did haul a couple of books. I was on Amazon because I was walking past my romance shelves and I was looking at Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings for one of the magical readathon prompts, and it didn't end up fitting. But I thought, I wonder if I can still get the original covers of books 3 and 4 before they turn to those like horrible Gossip Girl-esque Y2K covers that are honestly vile. Like, publishing make a lot of questionable decisions on a daily basis, but this one is probably the worst one that they've made, at least in the last couple of years. Why would you do that? These are ugly, but they have a charm to them. Especially like the first one looks like a 70s children's book threw up on it. So these are like ugly cute, like sweaters are ugly cute, you know? The other ones are just tacky and disgusting. Anyway, I picked up The Long Way Home and The Great Undoing by Jessa Hastings, which is books 3 and 4 in the Magnolia Parks universe. These are a series of unconventional romances, which essentially means that they are romantic in nature but don't necessarily end in a happily ever after. I've only read book 1, which is about Magnolia and BJ, and they used to be dating. They were like childhood sweethearts, kind of like meant for each other, and BJ cheated on Magnolia. So it's been like a couple of years since that happened, but they did break up, but they still remain best friends. They go out, they do whatever they do in the day, and then they come home and they sleep in the same bed, and they are toxic as fuck to each other. Magnolia dates a string of guys but never sleeps with them to make BJ jealous, and BJ sleeps with strings of girls and never makes emotional connections to get back at Magnolia. And deep down inside they both love each other, but neither of them are willing to actually confront what BJ did and try and move past it in like a healthy way. The writing in these series is beautiful. It's so like melodramatic and really like metaphorical writing that really elevates the level of teenage angst that I feel these books represent. They are adult books, they're in their early 20s, but it feels like a very teenage infatuation kind of relationship, which I do really like reading about in these because everything's so high stakes. Like Magnolia's like, I will simply expire if BJ doesn't talk to me, and it's that level of like real overinflated drama that I really enjoy. Can you get down please? I do really want to get back to that series at some point because I really enjoyed Magnolia Parks last year. In terms of the 2 books that I'm currently reading, The Shadow Rising, I want to get through 35 pages before I do anything else today, and I have 200 and 6 pages left of A Discovery of Witches, which I am still really enjoying, but there are elements of ridiculousness in this, like the angsty fighting. Like Matthew will just start fighting with characters and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? You're supposed to be 1500 years old. Where is the sophistication? I think I've mentioned this in live shows. I don't think I've mentioned it in an actual video, but vampires are coming back right now and I'm still not over vampires from the first time. Like I'm still not interested in vampires since the oversaturation of the years like 2005 to 2015. I don't know what it is, because I've discussed this with werewolves as well, but like werewolves give me the ick and vampires have me rolling my eyes. I'm like, you guys are hundreds, you're thousands of years old. Have a sense of decorum, my guy. Like you're here with your first edition copy of the Bible. You have your first edition copy of The Origin of the Species by Charles Darwin. And then the second you see your brother, you're rolling around and clawing to pieces and biting him like an animal. It's not cute. And also the level of possessiveness, like it is really, it's not bothering me to the point where I'm like, oh my god, I hate this book, I hate reading it. But I don't love the romance element in here because I'm just like, the way that he stops her from doing things gives me the ick. Like she's like, I want to do this, and he makes the decision that it's too dangerous for her to do something that she wants to do, ignores any input or reasoning that she has, and then bars her from doing it. And I'm like, my guy, that's not hot. That's not hot, which is sad because he has the potential to be hot. And then as I was saying about Diana being very fragile, she's just paralyzed by shock again in the bit that I've just read. So yeah, I'm still really enjoying the atmosphere, the writing, like the plot of this, but those two I'm not vibing with as much. So my plan is to finish this today, 207 pages, and read at least those 30 pages of The Shadow Rising. So I'll check back in with you later and see how we get on. The Magical Readathon has actually already started. This vlog was running until the Magical Readathon starts because there was no point stopping it before if I'm planning to weekly vlog for Magical Readathon, which I am. I found out that because we beat the page and book count from the last Magical Readathon, we actually got to start 3 days early this year, which I obviously can't because I'm in the middle of 2 books. But when I finish A Discovery of Witches, I think I will be wrapping this vlog up so that I can start on my Magical Readathon TBR. Good morning, sugar plum. Good morning. Good morning, honey. Good morning. So last night, with just 10 minutes of the readathon to spare, I did manage to finish A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness, making this my final book that I'm going to be completing for July. And you know what? I have only read 4 books in July. I've read 4, I've DNF'd 1, but 3 of those 4 books are over 670 pages and 1 is over 500. So I feel like, all things considered, I haven't really done too badly. And I'm also really proud of myself for blasting through like 450 pages of this in a weekend. And I really enjoyed it as well, which I didn't know I would, and I still feel like this was not what I expected it to be, because going into this, all I knew about it was that it was a girl who like worked at the Oxford Library and she calls this manuscript. I know that there's historical fiction elements in this series, so I thought she kind of got sucked into the manuscript and that there was a vampire love interest. And with the way that this is set out, with it being in Oxford, with it being about history and manuscripts, I thought that this was going to be like kind of dense and very pretentious, and it was pretentious, but it does also just read like Twilight for adults. Like, it's not a difficult read at all when you get past the first 100 pages and you're kind of immersed in the setting. And the thing that I actually loved the most about this was the atmosphere, and I did really like that element of pretension, which is something that I normally don't love too much, depending on how it's done. But I feel like with this being paired with a more casual, like addictive paranormal romance kind of storyline, it really worked for me. And this was actually really transportative. Like, throughout the entire time I was reading this, I thought it was fall. And I love that. Like, autumn is my favorite time for reading, and those books that bring like the atmosphere, like the cold moody days, the pumpkin spice smells, I love. And even though it's like the height of summer, this book really took me there. So I still don't really like the romance so much because of Matthew especially. The overbearingness just, it just isn't for me. And I don't mind an alpha male. Like, we know I love me an alpha male, but it's when he, one, stops the main character from doing things, and also the fact that she kind of just gives in and like puts aside like, oh, I wanted to do this, and actually like for her own good that was decided by a man, decides not to do it. That's why I didn't love this. And the fact, because like I was saying that Diana is often like a little bit frail, a little bit fragile, she gets paralyzed by shock easily. It's really funny because not long after I was complaining about that, she did quite literally get paralyzed by shock again. So she is not my favorite main character right now either, but I did end up really liking the plot as well. The writing style I really loved because I feel like it did really lean into the atmosphere. All of the like historical and literature stuff still went a little bit over my head, but once again really lent itself to the atmosphere, and also did really ground this in reality for me, to a place where like I can imagine this as like a story that actually happened. And that's what I need from my fantasy, which is surprising because when I read contemporary, I want it to be wildly unrealistic. Like I don't want a realistic, like perfectly healthy slice of life kind of romance. I want it to be wild, dramatic and angsty. But when we're talking about fantasy, I want it to have elements in it that make it believable, that make it so that I could believe that this is an actual thing that is happening to actual people. And that was this for me. I'm really eager to pick up book 2 in this series. I do actually want to go on a bit of a charity shop hunt because I always see books in this series in charity shops, but I've stopped for the most part, unless they're ridiculously cheap. I've stopped buying later books in series when I haven't read book 1, so now I have to go on a hunt to find the rest of the books in the series, but I'm super eager to continue. And I feel like when I'm reading it along something like The Shadow Rising, and when I've had some chunkier, a little bit more dense books that I've had to push through because they have a slow storyline, I think the compelling nature of this story and how immersed I was in it really helped me to get super invested in it. So thank you to Becca for recommending this one to me, because this was my Patreon pick for April. Like the theme of my life right now is I'm hella behind, but I'm about to go into a little bit of a challenge vlog for the first week of Magical Readathon that will hopefully help me to get through. It's definitely, if I can do it, it's going to get me through quite a few pages and hopefully through a few books as well. I'm really looking forward to my August TBR because it does have quite a few books that are between like 300 and 400 pages, which honestly is alien to me right now. And I feel like for the last couple of months I've been in a reading mood, but I find when I read longer books that it kind of takes that out of me a little bit, because we all know you get a little bit of an endorphin rush from reading, like completing a book. And longer books, while I do prefer them, they obviously don't give you that boost when it takes you forever to finish them. So in terms of The Shadow Rising, I obviously haven't finished it. I'm on page 634. My aim for the rest of the day is to get to page 670. I did end up a day behind, so I've just adjusted my page goal so from now until Saturday when the live show is, it's at 9 PM on Saturday on my channel, which actually is of no help to you because this vlog I think is going up on Sunday. But from now until Saturday, I will be reading 60 pages a day of this to get through it, alongside some books on my Magical Readathon TBR. I just want to thank you guys for having, if you've made it this far in the vlog, for having patience with me this week. I was very conscious throughout the beginning of the week of how I felt like I was starting every update by saying like, I'm depressed and nothing is going well and I feel so slumpy. And I know it's frustrating from a viewer standpoint for that to be something that you hear over and over and over again, especially because this is going to take maybe at most an hour out of your life, so you're going to watch this like all back to back. But for me, when I'm in it, obviously, especially when I'm feeling like that, it feels like I've been feeling that way forever. And I have quite like obsessive thought habits, so when I am feeling any type of way, it's pretty much at the forefront of my mind at every moment. So I just want to thank you guys for having patience with me. When it comes to filming vlogs, when I'm feeling like that, I do find it difficult. I find myself restarting clips. I found myself throughout the course of this being like, I should scrap this vlog because I wasn't finishing any books. It's like, I should scrap this vlog and start again. But through my channel, through the history of me vlogging, I think this is like vlog number 229, I've always found it important to portray kind of like the reality of life sometimes. Like, it's not all sunshine and roses. Like, yeah, I'm traveling a lot this year, I'm having a great time, but what I went through last year and how I felt last year doesn't just completely disappear. And I do have moments, I do have periods where I still kind of feel that way and I'm still back in that place. And I don't want to just not show that, even though it can be uncomfortable
uncomfortable for me in the moment to film, and then irritating for me to edit. So thank you guys for having patience with this vlog. Thank you to me for having patience with myself as well, and kind of just allowing myself to feel some emotions throughout the last couple of weeks, especially because I think I touched upon in this vlog that it is like hormone related. So it's really frustrating for me to feel a way and not have a reason for feeling that way. Like, I can't say I feel this way because of this. It's literally just I feel this way and there's nothing that I can do about it except for go through it in this moment. So this clip is getting a little bit long-winded, and I think this vlog is a little bit long-winded, so I'm just gonna wrap it up. Do stay tuned for next week's vlog if you want to see what challenge I'm doing. It's kind of like it's not to do with the books that I'm reading. It's kind of in the same vein as the vlogs that I do that are like reading like it's my full-time job. So it's like time related and like number goal related, as opposed to being like, I read 3 dragon books in a week. So do stay tuned if you are interested at all in that. But aside from that, guys, I do hope you've enjoyed this vlog if you've made it this far. If you have, please don't forget to like if you liked it and subscribe if you wanna. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you'll go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.